Hey guys, I want to do a quick one right here, just to kind of polish up a couple of things before we get to too much more advanced stuff. What I want to do is go back and re-look at our health manager, set it up so it's a little bit better health system that we can uh, change the number of maximum hit points and all that for the character and the player, and also create two different kinds of health packs, a large pack and a small pack, and have them work so that we can create more power-ups and more things kind of happen with it. Basically, what I want to do is I want to kind of change some of the mathematics we have going on to where currently we have a lot of add this, subtract one, add two, that kind of thing going on. And what I'd like to do is make it more so that we have these variables that we can set. This will help us a lot later on when we're trying to actually design the gameplay and help balance things out for our platformer, to where we won't have to change individual numbers and have them everywhere. We can kind of store this in a more centralized location, and when we can change one, it'll change everything else in the game. So you don't have to go tracking back through a bunch of states and a bunch of different objects in order to make things different. So the first thing we need to do is go and look at our current health manager and make sure that we have it set up the way we need to. So right now this may be a little bit different from y'all's, but what I've got is basic life bar, the heal, the normalize, and the hurt. And what I'm wanting to do is use a new little process called set event data. Is going to be our new way of making these things heal and hurt and stuff like that. So we'll have to revisit the monsters and the health packs, but it's really not that complicated. The first thing I want to do though is I want to change our normalize here. Right now we have the set float value of norm health, and we have our global player health, and then we have our norm health multiply. Well, this works just fine so long as we have 10 hit points on our player, but if we have less than 10 hit points on our player, then this math gets kind of fudgied up and our health bar doesn't respond quite the way that it needs to. So what we need to do is actually change the variables here, and change the math so that no matter what his health points are set to, when it goes back and normalizes this to go back to our life bar is always going to be a percentage of that 0.5. Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead and click on normalize. Let's go to our variables a minute, and we have our norm health, which is currently set to negative 0.05, and then we have our so what we want to do is add or now we have our global player health, right? And what I want to do is I want to change that variable to player max health. Okay, so what we want this to be is his maximum number of hit points. So in this case I'm going to set it to 10, and then what I want to do is create a new one called player current health. Okay, and that one can also be set to 10 or so, and what we want to make sure of is that the current health is going to be recorded and used to be the player's current health in the game. The max health will be the maximum number of hit points that our player can have. So both of these can be changed. So max health, having it being a variable now, if we have some sort of power up that gave us more hit points to the player, so a greater number of HP, we can now set that as a variable and have it work inside of our health system here in a moment. Alright, so now that we have these, what we need to do is change our float value. Right now we're setting our float value and to normal health, to the max health, and all these kind of things just to make sure that we have them work. Well, what I want to do is we need to actually change this. So first thing we need to do is go to our math, and I want to do a float divide. Okay, and so what we want to have happen, okay, in order to make this work, is we need our float value variable, and we need it to be our max health, and we need to divide it by our current health. Okay, now the problem with this is going to be that we don't want to change our max health by this. Okay, but when you ever divide something by something, it's always going to end up being a percentage of that something. So what we need to do is have these variables set. okay, our max health set and our current set, so that we can divide them together and then multiply them basically by over 2 in order to create our normalized. So let me set this up real quick. So go to variables, let's add a couple of floats, and let's put this one as current HP, and then we want to do a new one called max HP. And what we're going to need to do is do some setting and some dividing. So set float value, let's just copy that action and paste one more. Okay, then bring our float divide down. So what we want to have happen is we want to take our global max and set it to max, and then take our global current and set it to current, and then when we divide, we want to then do our max and then our current. Okay, take our max HP, divide it by our current, or actually I think it should be the other way around. It should be our current divided by our max, and then what that's going to do is, sorry, that's going to be a set. We need current max, current health, set it to current HP. So current player global current set to current, max set to, hold on, reverse it, max set to global max, current set to global current. All right, so that way this is the one being set, that's the one being set. The divide needs to be our current HP divided by our max HP, and then our float multiply, our float variable here is going to be the current, right? That's what we're setting here. It's going to be divided, I'm sorry, divided here. So we want to take that and multiply it by 2. Actually, no, we want to divide it. So let's just go ahead and remove this, take our divide, copy it, and then paste it after, and then divide by actually a -2. Okay, so what this should do is set our HP, okay, and then when it normalizes it, it's going to divide it over 2, which will give us that 0.5 that we're looking for, right? So these numbers are always going to be come out as a percentage, or should come out as a percentage of 1 when we do this divide. It's basically being normalized. It's going to be set between 1 and 0. No matter what our values are, once they're divided upon themselves, they're going to be 1 or less. And then you divide that by 2 to get that 0.5, set it to a negative, and it should end up working. All right, so what we need to do is when it heals and hurts, instead of it being changing the max player health, we want it to change the current health. So what we need to do is change that, and then this also has the subtract, so we want to subtract it from the current health. And as well, when we're comparing, we need to compare our max health, or I should say we need to compare our current health with 0, and that would be equal to our death. Same thing with our heal. If our float compare for our max health, okay, and then the float 2 would be 10, what we would want is our global current health, compare it with our global max health, and then it would add 1. We'll end up changing this one here, this number here for our heal, depending upon our which health pack we have here in a moment. But yeah, we have to change our health and on our heal, so make sure those two are working. All right, so once we have the hurt, once we have the heal, there's just one more thing that we need to add to our normalize function. Right now we have the set float value, max hit points should equal the max health. Okay, so that one's taken care of. The next one is our current HP. Okay, should equal our current HP, the global variable. All right, what these two things do is give us something that we can do some math to. So we want to do a divide, and we want to have current HP divided by max HP. What that's going to do is this division here gives us our percentage. Okay, once we have that percentage, okay, we need to save that percentage as something else. So, because we're going to do another operation. So what I've set up is I did a set float value in our old normal health now, is going to be what our current percentage is. So for example, if our current HP is 5 and our max HP is 10, then once these divide, it's going to be set to a 0.5. Our current HP, instead of being 0, it would be a 0.5. So the normal health should now be that 0.5. That 0.5 is now going to be divided by 2, or I should say a -2, which in the end is going to set it up to be, it would be basically a half health bar. Okay, so let me show you how this thing works in game. So once we take a hit and it keys the normalize function, what happens is you're going to see our HP here is set to 10. Our current HP is now at a 9, so it sets that to a 0.9. All right, and then what happens is when it divides these two, it sets that to be that 0.9. Okay, so this 0.9 is the 0.9 out of 10. Basically, it has normalized that variable, and then when we set our float value, okay, so we're going to set that 0.9 to be a normal health, divide that by 2, it equals the 0.45, which knocks a little tick out. So as we keep getting hit with this setup, right? So we get hit and it hurts and it hurts and it hurts and it hurts. Okay, so you can see it's taking out 1 hit point per time. Well, what this also allows us to do is go down to variables, go to our global variables over here, and where it has our player max health, if we change that to say 15 in our current health, player current health, change that to say 15, and then we hit play again, what's going to happen is, since it's still only taking off 1 point, this is going to be a much smaller tick as things go. So you can kind of see how my health is coming down slowly, right? These 0.226s, 7s, 0.1s, these kind of things. All right, it is knocking off very, very little since I've got more health points. So how do we adjust this for different kinds of health packs? Well, real quick, let me show you. So right now I have my health pack, and I've got to change mine to make sure that it's sending the event to my health manager. Let me just double check, make sure that's set up. But before I send this event to the health manager, what I want to do is go down to state machine, and there's this thing that says set event data, and I want to add that. And so before we send it, we want to set in a piece of event data, and in this case set float data, and I'm going to add a variable to this. Alright, so here we have it set up. So what we want to do is we want to send a event data. We want to do a send event data. So right here we have send event, set event data, add this, and then we need a variable to store some float in. So what we're going to do is go to variables. I'm just going to do a heal AMT for heal amount. Okay, set that to say 3 for the moment. This is going to be a large health pack, so it'll heal 3, and so what we want to make sure is that float data is set to heal amount. This allows us to change that variable later on. So we want to set event data to be heal amount, and we want to send that to the health manager. On the health manager side of things, remember we're sending this event to heal. It's going to trigger this. What we want to have is we want to have a get event info. So we want to add this here. Where'd you go? Set event, get event info. All right, we want to add that action to the state, and make sure this is at the very top of the get event info. And so in this case, we have our float data, and we need a place to store it. So let's go to variables. Let's add our own heal amount variable, and then go to float data, set it to heal amount. So when it gets that event, it's going to take that float data that was sent and then attach it to where it says our float add. Make sure that's set to heal amount. Okay, now because we've changed this to 3 hit points versus 1 hit point, we're going to need to change this float compare. Right now it's set to if it's greater than, or when it's equal or greater than, it's not going to do anything. In this case, what we need to do is we need to have it add hit points, and then if the basically our current health is greater than our max health, then it needs to set current health to be that top. So what we're going to need to do is add a new state. So basically what we need to have happen is go ahead and get the event info, go ahead and add it, and if it's greater than, then we set it back down to. So what we're going to do is add a new state and call this one set max health, and all this is going to be is a single math set float value. Okay, and we want to set current health to the value of max health. Okay, and then this will be done. So we'll just go ahead and add transition finished, and then plop that over to normalize, and this finished is going to go here. Okay, but we're going to have to change the event. So let's add an event and call this one max. Okay, we want to do an add transition max, and then let's minimize you. So float add, and then the float compare. If it's equal or greater than, let's have this just go to max, and if it's less than, it's finished. So finished goes straight to normalized, max goes to set max health, and then to normalize. All right, so what we want to have happen here is to make sure that when we heal, it goes to gets the event info for what kind of healing it was, adds that healing to it, and then if it makes our current hit points greater than our max hit points, we want to make sure that it's set back to the max hit points where it's normalized, and then taken back to our health bar. All right, so this system here should work pretty well for grabbing health. So now let me test this real quick just to double check. And so we run down, we get hit a couple of times by the monster, and then we grab our hit points, and then now we're back up to full health. All right, so that's the way this should be working. All right, so last but not least, let's change this up so that we have a stop the game. Here's our health pack. I'm gonna rename this guy, say large health pack, and then move it down in here so that it is now a prefab, and then I want to do a Control D to duplicate it. I hit R, scale it down, something like this. Change this to small health pack, and then really quickly I can come in here to my small health pack prefab, or I should say my small health pack state, and under variables where it says heal amount, change that to a 1. Oops. There we go. State 2, variables, heal amount. Instead of heal amount being 3, we'll change that to a 1. And then now we can drag that down here. So now we have a small health pack and a large health pack, and both can be used to heal our player. Okay, we can even add that to the monster drops. All right, so these should be set up and working, and there you go, 2 health packs and a revamped, a little more better working health manager.